Right, let's look up this new stuff in the library, shall we? Need to look up temples and gods, another tap.
The Necrotelecomnicon was a book that legend spoke of, saying that any mortal man who read it would be driven insane. I learnt about it from a copy of Necrotelecomnicon discussed for students with practical experiments that I found in the library. In this tome, there is a description of the old dark gods of the Disc, including the terrible laddering holler, Nylonathotep. Apparently, Nylonathotep was once summoned by a series of 8 murders, forming a perfect octagram, focused at the center of the Circle C, thus releasing it from the sunken city of Leshp, where he was trapped, along with drunken Cthulhu Bapalulu. The book speculated about the whereabouts of Nylonathotep now, but beyond him being safely imprisoned somewhere around the Circle C, it drew no conclusions.
Oh dear. You know what, guys? This has changed from a detective noir thriller. This is now a full-on Lovecraftian horror story. Brilliant. Ah, there it is. Octagram of Murders. Can I use that on it?
I looked up the Octagram of Murders in the library, but I could only find the entry I'd already seen in Necrotelecomnicon discussed for students.
So it looks like somebody is trying to summon Nylonathotep, which cannot be a good thing. Strange symbol. Let's see what this thing is.
I found the obscure star-like symbol in the Necrotelecomnicon discussed for students. It called it the sign of the eel, or the Elver sign. It was apparently a protective ward against some of the older, darker gods of the Discworld. The tome also explained how to inscribe one, the order of tracing being very important. Not that I believed any of this mumbo-jumbo, but hey, you can't afford to be too careful, right?
Anything else I want to look at while I'm here? Still this thing about Deadman's pointy boots. I'm still got. Can we look up that? He's still saying he doesn't know what it is. Might as well see what it is. Yeah, I think we've gone straight to a Cthulhu story now.
I looked up Unseen University policy in the library and found the university prospectus. Not only were the iconographs in it at least 30 years out of date, but the prospectus made Ankh-Morpork sound like the cultural center of the Disc, and not the rancorous cesspool that it was. It did mention, however, that progression through the 8 levels of wizardry is determined in part by the acquisition of degree qualifications, and particularly towards the top of the tree, where the number of places became few and far between, by a policy of dead man's pointy boots. No questions being asked about the manner of them emptying. This information, although thorough, seemed of absolutely no use to me.
Okay, what we can do now is go back to the hideout and use that octagram to find out where the other 2 murders are going to take place. See, this is the part I remember really well. It's just a couple of bits getting up to this thing that were a bit iffy, but yeah, this thing... so it's Octagram of Murders I want. There we go.
The murders were marking out a perfect octagram, just like the one that had been used to free Nylonathotep from sunken Leshp centuries ago. If I was right, there would be 2 more murders, one in Tegan Street and one in the Wizard's Pleasance. If I knew which one was next, I could stake it out. In the center of the octagram was the Disc Theater, which almost certainly meant some kind of cosmic evil was entombed there. I can't say I was enthusiastic at the thought of checking it out.
Oh, ominousness. Much ominousness. this musicness. Right, so let's go out. So you've got Dagon Street. Oh, look at this lot. Now the map is really filling up. Let's go this place first.
The moon over Dagon Street lit the rundown alley. It didn't look like anyone was around. It was as abandoned as the Octarine Parrot on open stage night.
Boarded up shop front. A sign.
One of the shops in the street was called the Three Jolly Luck Takeaway Fish Bar.
Oh, it's
I
that one.
remembered that name from somewhere. Something to do with Mr. Hong.
Yes.
I remember he went missing somehow.
That was the that was mentioned in, I think it's Men at Arms. Mr. Hong opened the Three Jolly Luck Takeaway Fish Bar on Dagon Street on the night of the full moon. Some of his last words were, gristle, 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 gristle. I do like the way this game ties into the books like that.
I wasn't about to take the sign.
Boarded up shop front.
The abandoned fish bar was boarded up tight. I couldn't pull the boards off with my hands.
No, but I've got a tool that I can do that with. Hello there, Mr. Crowbar. Here we are. Well, this is a place. What have we got here?
The fish bar was littered with assorted debris. Amongst the debris, I found a bone that seemed a little out of place. I didn't want to take the bone. It was bad enough that I'd been carrying around some dead troll's tooth all this time. The bone seemed out of place somehow. I wasn't sure why.
Okay, let's go to the north. Dark magenta fog.
There was a disturbing dark magenta scent in the fish bar, something that resonated with cosmic evil. It scared me. It scared me that anything could have such a disturbing scent. And it scared me that I could tell what color cosmic evil was.
Go. Oh, that's the wrong one, sorry. Scent, wanted in this one. Dark magenta. Is anything else here? No, let's go back to human.
The bone seemed out of place somehow. I wasn't sure why.
Let's go back outside. Can we do a wolf scan on this one?
I didn't like to transform in the streets. You never knew who was watching.
What over here? Well, it looks like this is the only place. There's a bone there. Wish I knew what we could do with the bone. Something I did read about. I think there's something I missed from here. Yeah, I've seen these on the floor. Oh, I can pick them up. Clustering crusted bandages. I suppose these are of use to me. Are these any use to me at all?
I could wrap the bone up in bandages, but what would that achieve? I still didn't want to carry it around with me. The fish bar.
There's pots over here. What's in the pot?
The fish bar was full of cooking pots. Only to be expected, I guess. I don't know what the last thing cooked here was, but it seemed to have been prepared recently.
I suppose there's anything else to do here.
The less I had to do with the bone, the better. The fish bar...
Oh, sorry. No, go away.
The bone seemed out of place somehow. I wasn't sure why.
Okay, we'll do one more scan with the wolf. Dark magenta fog, nothing else going on. Is there a board at the back? No, I can't see it. Okay, we'll leave this place. We shall go to the Wizard's Pleasance. That was the next place on the list.
The Wizard's Pleasance was a small, newt-haunted meadow in a horseshoe bend in the Ankh, inside the grounds of the Unseen University, separated from it but connected to the university gardens by the Bridge of Sighs. On summer evenings, if the wind is blowing towards the river, it is a nice area for a stroll.
What we got? Bushes.
The Pleasance was full of dense bushes. I could hide in the bushes, but for how long? I'd need to know that the next murder was definitely going to be here before I did that.
Okay, wall. Oh. Can we not go to the wall? Hey, he made it. Bit of pathing there going on.
The Pleasance was cut off from the city by a tall exterior wall. I couldn't easily scale the wall.
Can I go wolf mode in this? I can. What have we got? Light green stench. That's the Ankh. That's the wrong one. That's the
The smell of the Ankh was stronger by far.
Yeah. Nothing else here. Okay. So we've got some bits to learn about. And the Disc Theatre is our next stop.
Everyone on the disc knows the legend of Eleanor of Tsot. Or at least everyone knows a legend of
this is
Eleanor
the,
of Tsot.
opening
Or
text.
Clinics. Or El Harib. Ask most people and they'll tell you that she was the cause of the Tsotian Wars. Of course, ask most people and they'll tell you the patrician is a kind and benevolent man. Never trust what most people tell you. The real cause of the Tsotian Wars was a little-known goddess called Errata.
Hey! Our favourite disc goddess. Okay. That's the way out. That's Luton, that's the stage. Let's walk to the stage, shall we? Privateer.
The pompous windbag on the stage was Privitier. He went beyond being a ham. He had 2 eggs, fried mushrooms, and a gigantic rasher of bacon. That's pretty good. You've been acting long.
One is either born an actor, or one is never an actor.
Yeah, I can just see you paddling about the womb with a script in hand.
Ow.
Do you doubt my credentials as the disc's premier performer of dramatic scenes?
As far as I'm concerned, one actor is as good as another. You come on, you speak your lines, and then you get killed. How hard can it be?
Here I stand, your slave, a poor, infirm, weak, and despised old man. Do you slight me such?
What?
You are not abreast of Hwell's fair pen, then, stranger.
The name's Luton. And no, I don't know Hwell's work at all.
My name is Privitier, and my realm is that of tragedy and comedy. The finest arts are my purview.
Yeah, if you say so.
Let's talk to him a bit, shall we?
So you're an actor.
It is my calling to tread the boards, and for this I am called an actor.
Translation, yes. Why do you talk like that?
When one is blessed with silk, one does not wear cotton.
What's that supposed to mean?
You are not familiar with the ways of the theatre, are you, my boy?
No. I always thought it was about getting
Just go and
killed in a
stop
different
shouting.
way every night.
Well, that's part of it. But it's also about the lines, the pomp and the circumstance. Men in skirts. Yes, yes. The play's the thing.
To catch the cash flow of the dim.
You disapprove? A man must his living make.
If he could make it with decent grammar, I wouldn't mind.
You should come and see the spectacle. Perhaps then you would cast less scorn upon our merry ways.
You want me to go to see a play?
Come to hear the wooden dialogue.
That's not much of a quote.
It was the best I could do at short notice.
What's playing at the moment?
Troculus and Chrysalic, the tale of the frailty of woman and the stupidity of a man in love.
With a lot of bloody deaths thrown in for good measure.
But of course.
The plays.
Tell me about the plays.
Would that I had the time to sing the praises of all Hwell's masterworks. But time is short and life is fleeting.
Just tell me about the plays.
Our current season is a groundbreaking interpretation of Hwell's most famous works, pushing back the boundaries of art and style.
Groundbreaking?
'Tis a term we of the noble calling use to describe the way each generation improves and expands upon the themes laid bare in the soul by inspiration.
In other words, your murder scenes look more and more realistic every year.
The triumph of effects.
Unfortunately, the triumph of effects over plot.
The plots are as entrancing as the day they were first written.
In other words, you haven't had any new ideas in decades.
If the way is true, why err from it?
I wonder how long it's been since Weird Sisters when Howl first appeared. I wonder if you know anything about these.
I didn't want to mention the sign of the eel to just anyone. They'd think I was mad. What would you say if I told you I suspected people are being murdered to summon a terrible entity to destroy the city?
I would say, doomsday is near, die all, die merrily.
That's from one of these silly plays, isn't it?
The King of Ankh, Act 4, Scene 1.
I was serious, you know. The disc might be the focal point for infernal forces that could destroy the city. I'd enjoy talking to you a lot more if you'd just stop quoting those damn plays. Do you realize how pathetic this makes you look?
What? Must I hold a candle to my shames?
You know, I think I'll be glad if this place does get destroyed by horrors from beyond time and space.
It'd be great publicity. Should I tell them how to spell my name?
He's a funny one. I wonder if you know anything about these counterweight killings.
Have you heard of the counterweight killings?
A terrible state of affairs, a tragedy.
But do you know anything about it?
I know it's been very good for the gate receipts.
Has anything unusual happened around here recently?
Who am I to say what is usual and what is an aberrance of nature?
Believe me, if I had someone else to ask, I would.
The closest to an unusual occurrence was when Lucius, miserable souse that he is, missed the role in Titus Diplodocus.
Missed his role?
He was supposed to be playing Canapé, but he didn't turn up. I don't know where he is.
Where he is? He still hasn't turned up.
Probably afraid we're going to eat him alive when he finally drags his sorry carcass back here.
I'm really not holding out much hope for this guy right at the moment. Maybe he'll come later.
Well, I have to go.
Parting is such sweet sorrow.
Whatever.
Okay. Doesn't look like there's much here at the moment. I can't go wolf mode, can I?
If I was
No.
going to turn into a wolf, I'd better do it where Previtier couldn't see me.
Oh, interesting. So he can do it, but not where he's... Can you go over here? Oh, there's a flyer there. Let's grab that.
There was a flyer left behind on one of the seats.
We'll have that. What does this flyer say?
I'd picked up the theater flyer from the Disc Theater. It told me about the plays in the Disc's current season. The 8 plays in sequence were The Happy Prince of Copperhaven, Antilogy and Cleopatra, Kensington, The King of Ankh, The Leering King, The Tyrant,
King Lear.
Troculus and Chrysalic, and Titus Diplodocus. The flyer didn't tell me anything about them, though.
Okay, can I turn into a wolf now?
If I was...
No. Can I move over here?
If I was...
Still no. That's going out. Let's go back to the stage. Is that far enough away?
I quickly
Yes.
transformed into a wolf and had a sniff around. There was an eerie, dark magenta scent in the theater.
Oh dear.
But what caught my attention was the magenta scent that seemed to disappear into the stage. My murderer had been here.
That's interesting. Oops, he's doing it again. Right, here we go.
Where the scent had disappeared, there were some marks. I couldn't quite make them out, but they seemed to be a definite shape of some kind. I ran my finger around the marks casually. There was something about them that made you want to trace things on them, like a smiley face or a tic-tac-toe board. Well, something like that. Maybe something a little more sinister.
Okay. We've got some symbols we can try. Let's try this one.
I
Hey,
traced the
what's that?
sign of the eel across the marks, exactly as I'd learned how to do in the Libraris Apocrypha. There was a faint click, and the next thing I knew, there was a passageway under the stage.
Hooray! That is a very long staircase. Oh my word. Wow. Be honest, I've forgotten about this place. Well, I've forgotten about this.
The passageway led into
scene.
a dark and ominous vault. The whole sepulchral temple seemed to be formed from curves and angles that would give geometry teachers nightmares.
And that is where we're going to leave it for this evening. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like, comment and subscribe. It really does help us. See you next time when I'll probably end up fleeing for my life. Bye guys.